Welcome back. Good to see everybody. Hope everyone's safe and sound and well. Today we're going to talk about strength training and body protection. So I know it's a really important component of fitness, and a lot of people quite enjoy this part of their conditioning. Obviously getting into the gym, lifting weights, feeling good about themselves. I think a big part of it as a match official is feeling fit, feeling that image that you feel strong. Recognizing the benefit of strength training and body protection, how not only does it affect performance and your robustness and your kind of injury prevention, but also it's about that presence on the pitch, isn't it? We know that we should lift 2 or 3 times a week, ideally, if we can. And obviously it's very difficult sometimes with work and juggling things. Obviously with lockdown, we had the gyms closed. So a lot of people had to be a bit more creative with their loading and what they chose to do for lifting. But now the gyms are open, hopefully you've got access to everything that you guys need. So it'd be really good to have a chat about what you guys might choose to do as match officials. So I don't know if Woody, you want to start us off? I know you like to get into the gym.
For me, strength training, I really enjoy it. And I think it's really important, as you noted, for the overall benefits. So for me, it's, I use strength training for body protection, and then also it just helps to make you stronger, faster, and more explosive. So it helps when you've got to sprint after an intercept or anything like that. Then it means you're able to have that explosiveness, and also know that because of your strength training, you're not going to pull hamstrings or pull calves and stuff. So for me, it's really important. I try and get a couple of sessions in a week to overall body, but I've definitely, from a refereeing point of view, it's really important that you strengthen the legs, because that's, they're the key component of what we do. We're about running around. We're not like the players having to crash into people. So therefore we don't necessarily need to be doing all that, focusing on upper body. Legs is definitely the key for us.
In terms of my lifting plan, look, I'm not quite like Woody. My goal isn't to get Gilbert to design a new pair of referee shorts because my tree trunks are too big. But I'm into my body protection, and I think it's no coincidence that I don't suffer with a lot of injuries because I pay attention to that area of my training. I'm not massively into huge heavy weights, but I feel like I know my body really well, and I push myself incrementally, and I feel like I get the gains from that. Really don't enjoy the DOMs and stuff like that, particularly coming back into the gym since it's reopened. Certainly the first couple of sessions I was in bits over the few days afterwards, and that wasn't even, I didn't even think I was really hitting it hard. I just thought, I'll go back in and pretty much start where I left off. And that perhaps was a bit naive of me, because, I had been incrementally sort of increasing the weights I was lifting. And yeah, so that was a bit of a slap in the face to wake up, not being able to move. But yeah, that'll only get better, hopefully.
I think that's a really good point, Adam, is that, again, it goes back to what we spoke about with injury prevention, no spikes in particular, keeping it really steady, listening to the body, learning about your body, which, you guys are really good at, and that reflects in how you train and keeping safe and sound with your training. So I think you're absolutely right to go into the gym and expect to squat or deadlift, what you were doing before lockdown and when the gyms were open again is unrealistic. So to gradually increase that loading again and that exposure to kind of dosage of load again is really, really clever and really smart and the right way to do things. So yeah, really good advice with that. I really like the fact that all of you sound like you've been really creative with knowing that things are different, things are limited. You can't just walk in and find your platform and crack on. You've had to think about what you have at home, what you can do to modify. Also, now things are opening, thinking about that graduated load and maybe more functional movement. So rather than just going in and banging out some back squats, you might think about the single leg lunge patterns, which maybe are more functional for a match official, a bit more injury prevention, kind of focused work that might not demand the higher load, but certainly for injury prevention and performance, that crossover of the single leg control, the eccentric loading that you might do, slower lowering phase and explosive upward phase, for example, isometric holds where you're going to hold stuff, are all different kind of loading strategies that you can do without much weight, and actually demand the muscles in different ways that might elicit more muscle soreness, which is a good thing, but without the high demand of the load that you might need normally. Now the gyms are open again, thinking about the compound lifts, multi-joint movement patterns. So thinking about maybe loaded carries with the walking and farmers drills, calf loading, protection work, some squats, hamstring work. We spoke about a lot of the Romanian deadlift, and maybe some Nordic curls, some hamstring protection. And for me, as I've said throughout this series, injury prevention and performance dovetail. And again, you guys can be the best match officials in the world, but if you're out all the time injured, it doesn't matter. You have to be available for selection. So recognizing that it's not just about getting in the gym and beasting it to be biggest, strongest that you can be. It's about balancing the strength of quads and hamstrings, calf loading, tendon protection, glute activation, single leg bridging, you know, hip thrusts, as well as some upper body stuff, so that we've got that presence about us that I spoke about at the start. Push, press, bent over rows, different movement patterns to keep our core, our glutes, our lumbar pelvic region. So all of those components, it sounds like quite a lot, but if we pick the right exercises, 6 or 7 different really key exercises that we might choose to do in our 2 or 3 sessions a week, then that might be good. And I would think about, obviously, as we return to rugby, periodizing your week. So maybe lifting a bit heavier at the start of the week, having a day off from lifting, going again. So maybe Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you might choose to do a HIIT session or a lighter body protection or upper body on the Friday if you've got a match on the weekend, for example. But while there aren't matches on, it's a great opportunity to treat this time as a pre-season phase where it doesn't matter if you're sore on a Saturday or a Sunday, because that's going to be your progression to when you are back in match play. And if you don't do it now, when you do come to match play, then you will get that muscle soreness and it will affect your capacity to load and perform. So do you guys think about when you choose to load in the week as it stands?
Yeah, I do, definitely. Just because, yeah, like I say, I tend to get the DOMs, and I don't want to be, I want to be as fluid and as mobile as I can on a pitch. And if I load heavy on a Thursday for a Saturday game, for example, then I know that, you know, I'm going to feel it badly on the Saturday morning. So I tend to load earlier in the week, and yeah, just try and make sure my body's nice and free for that weekend. Sometimes it's not always possible, and I think that just extends me into like a much more thorough warm up in terms of just trying to get everything loosened off, and, you know, a bit more foam rolling, and you know, just sort of as much as I can just to get rid of some of that DOMS before game day. But yeah, mostly early in the week for me, just because I really don't want to be sore on game day.
Yeah, and I think one of the key things that you guys do is that regularity of loading. And what sometimes I find is that people will load, be really sore, not lift again for another week or so because they're so sore, and then lift again, and then they're really sore again, and then they don't want to lift again. So recognizing, again, the graduated load that we've spoken about, maybe consider the sets and reps. You know, you might start off with lighter load, 3 or 4 sets of 12 reps as a bit of a classic muscular endurance, get back into movement, again, movement patterning, muscular neurological development. So it's getting the muscles moving in the right kind of patterns and firing the right way before you go into that more kind of strength power, 4 or 5 sets of 5 to 8 reps, for example, that might be a bit more strength power based. The other thing as well is if we can't go into the gym, we've had to modify for the last year. So recognizing that actually, if you can't timetable it and it's fully booked at the gym, then actually to think about the step downs, the step ups, the lunge patterns, the get in the backpack, pop in the books in the backpack, you know, are all great ways just to do, you know, 20, 30-minute session at home. And as you've all alluded to, something is better than nothing. So, you know, strength training is probably one of the biggest kind of components of fitness that's going to protect our bodies. There's a big correlation with strength and speed. We know that you know, the best athletes are strong, and therefore that correlates with speed, and you're quick and athletic. And we know that if we're conditioned for that speed and strength, that we can reduce those injuries as well. So it is a really important component of fitness, and we don't need to get in and bench press and squat, you know, 1,800 kg. We need to just load our body, which is our normal baseline, which is very different for lots of people. We just need to step it up a little bit and go again, then step it up a little bit and go again. And I think recognizing that to add value to your body and to your conditioning, the government recommend for sedentary people that all of us should be lifting or doing some kind of weight training twice a week. So that's for the general population. So whether it's in the gym, whether it's gardening, whether it's lifting heavy shopping, whatever it might be, we are supposed to protect our bodies and make our bodies more robust as humans, lifting twice a week. So that's something to bear in mind as well, is there's a health related component of this, not just a performance related component of this. So it's good.
For me, I really like unilateral movements. So they're, you know, movements that are actively training just one side of your body. So movements such as split squats or lunges, for me, are brilliant. You know, the benefits of that is that you make sure you're not neglecting any of the any specific muscle, because you're really focusing on one leg, making sure that one's trained, and then you can train the other leg as well, which helps the strength from that point of view. And then, you know, the beauty of it as well is, you know, the weights will usually be a lot lighter than if you were doing your bog standard, you know, heavy back squat or deadlift. So therefore, if you don't have access to loads and loads of weights, you know, you're able to get a really, really good workout without needing too much equipment. So yeah, that's my ideal sort of strength training.
I'm a big fan of just the back squat, and I think my main advice on that would be, having done a lot of work with Al on it over the time that I've been involved in refereeing, is that you need to start low, because I went into it watching all the other guys around me smashing all this weight out, and my technique was really poor, and that was highlighted really early on, and I feel really grateful now, because I think, you know, before I was involved in and had that advice, I was probably doing more damage than good. And I think that we just need to make sure that when we go into these sorts of training, and especially if it's new to us, that we start low and try and work on our technique before we go into it. And that's, you know, I take that into my, you know, my exercises, whether it be back squats or deadlifts. I think that the technique's really important.
I mean, I'm just going to add calf raises. I love calf raises. I've done them for however long now. But they're such a simplistic exercise that you can modify and scale up and scale back. And, you know, how many people end up in the summer when you're doing sevens tournaments, or you're doing some pre-season games and you get that little bit of cramp in your calf. Just being able to build that robustness. And it's, you know, it's the bottom end of the link to your posterior chain. So making sure that you're working all the way through that. You don't need any kit and equipment to do it. Starting on the floor, then moving on to a step, adding a small load, changing the position of the foot. And then you can always build it into some isometrics, into little hops and steps to progress on. So it's something that's probably we take for granted until you get a knock or a niggle on your ankle and you get made to do it. I have definitely made friends with calf raisers over the last year, and I won't not be friends with them ever again.
I'm similar to the boys, to be honest. I like some of the big heavy lifts, like the squats and the deadlifts, and particularly, yeah, anything that protects your hamstrings. Like, I love a Nordic curl where we're going down. You know, you get some of the machines where you can hook your legs in and do that, or you can just do a normal one. I like some of the more dynamic ones as well. So, like, I love a box jump. If I can ever find somewhere with a box or something, I love a box jump. I hate sit, but I love a burpee. I love a kettlebell swing or something like that. So when you've done your set of your heavy stuff and you want to get some more of the HIIT, the dynamic type of weights, yeah, like a 15-minute blast of some of those at the end. I think that's where, if you're not a big lifter or you want something different, like, that's where you can have some fun with your training as well. So yeah, anything explosive like that for me.
I think the triple flexion, triple extension that a kettlebell swing gives you, for example, or a high pull or a deadlift that is whole body, very functional, is really, really powerful. And I agree, Adam, I think technique is absolutely essential, and thinking that people that might not have lifted can just go into the gym and nail out some quality movement patterns without any kind of advice or coaching would be a worry and a bit of a mistake, and that's where people get injured, hurt their backs. For example, if you're doing a kettlebell swing with a bent spine, you're going to hurt your spine. You've got to have your chest up, strong back, use your hips to flex and extend. So things like that you can get your local gym instructor or strength and conditioning coach to support you with to get that technique right are going to pay dividends and make you strong, functional and robust, which are all the kind of key elements that are going to keep you fit and strong. So I think ankles, knees, hips, flexion, extension, any movement patterns, whether it's single leg movements or double leg movements that work, again, the quads, the hammies, the posterior chain, as Nikki said, the glutes, low back, hamstrings, that will protect the calves, protect the Achilles, protect that whole chain of movement pattern. But technique is absolutely key. And if I remember when Adam first joined us down at Twickenham, we used strength training to help his range of movement as well as his development of technique. And those kind of opportunities that strength training gives you is to help range of movement, to help posture, to help prevent injury, to help with this whole kind of presence of physicality. And that's really important, I think, with training.